Pauline Gibbons Chapter 4 of Scaffolding Language, Scaffolding Learning is titled From Speaking to Writing in the Content Classroom. So spoken language and written language are better understood as a continuum rather than as two separate things. The mode continuum is a representation of how language changes as you move closer to written forms. Gibbons provides 4 examples of text. In the face-to-face context, the listeners can see what the student is talking about, so the speaker can simply point to the objects or occurrences being discussed rather than having to name them. For example, in an experiment, the student was describing what was happening and used words such as this, that, and these. In the spoken but no visual representation text, students must use only language to make things explicit for the listener. They must use literate talk and name the objects they are talking about along with what happened. In written text, the writer cannot rely on shared assumptions, so they must recreate the experience through language alone. They must also provide a context for what is being written about. The final example was written text from a children's encyclopedia. Here there's an increase in technical terms and text density, and there must be nominalizations, which are processes turned into nouns. For example, the verb attract was turned into the noun attraction. Gibbons provides an example of one teacher who used the idea of the mode continuum to plan her classroom program. This teacher had mostly English language learner students, so she had to support language development. Her activities were sequenced from more spoken-like to more written-like. First, the students worked in small groups to conduct an experiment. Here, the language was situation-dependent. The students supported each other and built off of each other's words to explain what was happening. The teacher then presented key vocabulary to the entire class. By allowing the students to first observe attraction and repulsion, she could then present the vocabulary terms attract and repel so that they could make connections to what they had just experienced and fully understand the meaning. In teacher-guided reporting, the students worked in groups and then received support from the teacher to share what they learned to the class. They needed to use language more explicitly because they no longer had the experiment in front of them to show what happened, and each group of students did a different experiment. This allowed them to organize their words and served as a linguistic bridge to journal writing, where they worked individually. The journal writing part was the most demanding. In connection to my own experiences, I am currently planning a lesson for a biology class that has 6 ELD students. I will present a phenomenon, and in small groups, they will discuss and predict what they think is happening and how it is important. I will then address the entire class and define key terms such as ecosystems, abiotic and biotic factors, and the food web. I will then allow them to get back into their groups and make changes to their predictions, which they will then share with the class. As a wrap-up to the lesson, I will have them write in their science notebooks what an ecosystem is and why each member of an ecosystem is important based on their predictions.